If we want to be a positive force in this world, we need to defy the lies and serve the truth. A lot of lies have been spread about global warming because greed is a very powerful thing. But we know the truth of climate change. We can see it happening. Denying the lie means standing up for what you know is right. It means taking action, even when everything in society is telling you to ignore the truth. Our planet is running out of time. We have to stop burning fossil fuels. We have to leave them in the ground. But that won't happen unless we defy the lies and we demand clean power. Sign your name, share this, serve the truth.
Hello, my name is Fatima Johnson, and I'll be talking about cities and communities.
Hello, my name is Nathan Jackson, and I will be discussing endangered animals and wildlife.
Hello, my name is Trevor Sweet, and I'm doing health and pollution.
Hey, I'm Brandon Ruffin. I'll be talking about clean water and efficient water usage.
Hello, my name is Carter Marion, and I'll be talking about oceans.
Hello, my name is Michael Finucane, and I'm here to talk to you about climate change.
AKA
NRDC!
80% of Americans now live in or around cities, and the urbanization of our population has major implications for climate change. With all the uprising in carbon emissions, it's crucial that our cities be able to adapt and evolve more quickly than ever before, and we can. Everyone can help. Our target goals are to improve areas in energy efficiency, urban resiliency, transportation, land use, and neighborhood revitalization. Locating housing closer to jobs and transportation choices and creating walkable communities can reduce commute times and cut millions of tons of global warming pollution while improving quality of life. That is just one example of many to support how the small changes we make in our individual lives can greatly impact the rest of the world as a whole. Cities are major contributors to our nation's carbon emissions. In the U.S. alone, over 60% of carbon emissions come from buildings in which we live and work and the transportation systems that get us to where we want to go. In order to safeguard our communities and meet our climate change commitments, cities will need to evolve more quickly than ever to avoid irreparable harm. Cities are home to the highest rates of income inequality in the country, dragging down our shared economic strength and getting in the way of market-based solutions to climate change. According to the Urban Institute, over 25% of the nation's population live in neighborhoods with high concentrations of poverty, and they have limited access to adequate transportation options and healthy food choices, often coupled with higher exposure to extreme weather events and environmental hazards.
Wildlife is a big part of the environment. NRDC does a lot for endangered animals and wildlife. It helps control the amount of predators for there won't be as much of an animal loss, which can help prevent certain animals from being threatened, endangered, or even becoming extinct. The NRDC are also trying to protect the gray wolf in the Rocky Mountains. Gray wolves once roamed the United States coast to coast and from Canada to Mexico. But in the late 19th century and early 20th century, the gray wolf were killed in staggering numbers. Today's wolves have mounted a comeback, but their recovery is far from certain. Today, NRDC is increasing its efforts to reduce conflict between wolves and livestock in the northern Rockies, which will ensure a healthy and sustainable future for wolves in the northern Rockies. Another animal that is threatened is grizzly bears. It may not seem like an animal that is easily threatened, but they are the most vulnerable to industrial development and other human activities. Only about 1,500 grizzly bears remain in the lower 48 states. The current population must increase to double or triple its current size to ensure grizzlies' recovery. If you want to help control predators, fight to keep gray wolves and grizzly bears safe, visit nrdc.org/wildlife.
The NRDC has been assisting with the preservation and purity of natural water since its formation in 1970. In 1980, 10 years after the NRDC was formed, the Clean Water Act was passed in the United States. Besides the U.S. government, the NRDC proved to be the biggest impact on getting this piece of legislature through, and the Clean Water Act has been around since 1980. Although the act is still around and alterations have been made to cope with different times and different circumstances, there are still problems that the NRDC needs help with. Changing climate patterns deplete lakes and rivers, while humans simultaneously pollute lakes and rivers. Although climate change is a complex problem with no one clear solution, pollution from companies is definitely something that we have a solution to. The NRDC is one of the biggest influences on establishing new pollution limits for problem areas and big companies. This organization knows how to fight big companies and save our clean water supply. The only problem is that the big companies are winning this fight right now because of the amount of money they have, and the money's coming from us. If we donated even just a small percentage of this money to the NRDC instead of these big companies, then our water would be much cleaner and it'd be a lot more plentiful. All recent studies and reports point to us losing over half of our water supply in the next 10 years. The problem doesn't seem that important right now because it's not immediate. We need to work to help save our clean water supply now so we don't have to worry as much in the future. Anyone can help fight pollution if they want to. And if you don't want to, if the problem doesn't seem big enough to you, think about not showering when you want to, think about not being able to drink a water bottle when you want to, and then you'll think about the NRDC.
Hey, I'm Carter, and I'm going to be talking about the National Resource Defense Council's role in preserving oceans around the world and wildlife within them.
And in order to understand what they do, it's important to know the problems that they face. The first problem that I'll talk about is chronic overfishing in the oceans. Popular fish such as cod, snapper, and tuna populations are being depleted very quickly. Also, more than 1/2 of global fish populations are fully exploited, and around 1/3 are overexploited or collapsed. This is very harmful because it eliminates a food source for animals in the area, which can damage the ecosystems even further. Also, overfishing costs about $50 billion annually. This is because overfishing is good for businesses in the short run, but they're not giving time for the fish to repopulate, so they end up losing money in the long run. Another problem that the National Resource Defense Committee faces is pollution and habitat destruction. Acidification in the oceans is happening very quickly as well, and this is because of carbon dioxide and the amounts that are being emitted into the air. Eventually, that carbon dioxide in the air gets let into the oceans and can cause pH levels to rise in the oceans, which fish aren't adapted to and can die. Also, pollution in oceans. Dumping trash such as plastic can be very harmful to fish because they swallow it or get suffocated by it, which can either cause them to starve or die. So what does the NRDC do to combat these problems? Well, they do this by ensuring that catch limits are based on science, not politics or industry preferences, by enforcing laws that require annual fishing quotas. Also, the NRDC works directly with government agencies, fisheries managers, and scientists to ensure that management decisions reflect the conservation mandates in the law, that local regulations are tailored to both biological and socioeconomic realities. The NRDC also watches fisheries management to make sure that laws and requirements aren't ignored, and if they are, they take those responsible to court. Overall, 64% of once overfished monitored fish stocks nationwide have been rebuilt or made significant progress thanks to additional protections added to the federal fisheries laws in 1996. Hopefully, the progress of the NRDC can continue and practicing of these laws is enforced and used, and eventually this number can rise.
Hello, my topic today is the NRDC, more specifically health and pollution. There are many projects the NRDC is working on, but one of the most aggressive threats the NRDC is dealing with is hydraulic fracturing. Fracking, as it is known, is one of the biggest solutions to foreign oil. The fact that fracking can produce oil and methane, which is vital to our country's growth, and it is produced right here in America, is the selling point of fracking. But that's where it stops. Fracking is beyond a nightmare for residents who happen to live near the fracking sites. Big oil companies do not see the harm for fracking because they're way too rich to live near these sites. Fracking sites usually appear where there is low-income housing, so they can't stop the fight of hydraulic fracturing from happening. Oil companies make way too much money to care about poor residents who have to live through the nightmare of fracking. How bad is fracking, you may ask? Well, first, these sites are pounding their way down a 1,000-foot hole before the sun can even come up. And their huge drills that slam into the shale rock can be heard from miles away. Each frac site needs up to 2,000 tanker trucks per frac. They need 8 million gallons of fresh water and 40,000 gallons of chemicals. These chemicals are so harmful, the oil companies have refused to give out the details of the chemicals. Once the fresh water is contaminated by the chemicals and poured down the hole to kill bacteria, it cannot be purified again and is treated like radiation water. If the contaminated water leaks into the groundwater, all hell breaks loose for the residents. There are videos of residents lighting their water from the faucet on fire because these chemicals are in their water supply, which is crazy. Water should never catch on fire, and especially if it's from your faucet or shower. Fracking can also create small earthquakes and release huge clouds of methane, which speeds up global warming from the fracking procedure if it is not done right. The NRDC is trying to stop these oil companies and trying to put an effort into green and renewable energy like solar, wind, and geothermal energy. That is why it is so important to donate to the NRDC.
Hello, my name is Michael Finucane, and today I'm here to talk to you about how we are destroying our environment more and more each day. But first, let's start out with global warming. What is global warming? Global warming is happening due to carbon dioxide and other pollutants creating a growing blanket that is trapping the sun's heat, causing the planet to warm up more and more every single day. Now you may be asking yourselves, how can my minimal actions affect climate change? Well, let's see. You are just one portion of the big picture, and a good portion of this planet has the same mindset as you. If these emissions are not curbed, temperatures could rise from 3 to 9 degrees by the end of this century. 2100 may seem like a long ways away, but there are many factors contributing to the rise in temperature, which could inevitably increase the rate of growth. Now, everyone knows how climate change is affecting the water we use, our energy supply, transportation, our agriculture, as well as our ecosystems. But these people tend to forget that climate change comes with increases in death and illnesses related to heat and heat waves, as well as increasing the probability of diseases being transmitted by food, water, and insects. But most importantly, the general population does not realize how vulnerable our children, the elderly, and the poor are to these disastrous effects. Now, what can you do to reduce the effects of climate change? You can start by investing in green jobs or green energy, but if that isn't for you, then there's always other ways, such as driving smarter, cleaner, and more fuel-efficient cars. There's a myriad of options, and countries such as the US and China are doing a great job at exploiting these options and using them to their correct ability. The European Union has already passed its emission reduction goal of 20% by 2020 just a few days ago. It is only 2015 and they already passed their goal. All it takes is a group of people willing to make a difference. The NRDC proposes that 470 to 700 tons of carbon pollution can be eliminated per year starting in 2020. Their approach would yield $28 to $63 billion in health and environmental benefits. We truly care about this planet. We want our children to grow up in a safer place than we did. All it takes is you.